What's something people don't know about Jerry Seinfeld? Well, Jerry Seinfeld wasn't always a household name. First, remember to click like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get more videos like this one. Now let's take a look at Jerry Seinfeld's life. Jerry Seinfeld started like any other comedian, doing stand-up gigs, making people laugh one joke at a time. Seinfeld was born on April 29, 1954, to a Jewish family in Brooklyn, New York. His father, Kalman Seinfeld, a sign painter, was from Hungary and collected jokes he heard while serving in World War II. His mother, Betty, and her parents, Selim and Salha Hosni, were Mizrahi Jews from Aleppo, Syria. Their nationality was stated as Turkish when they immigrated in 1917, as Syria was under the Ottoman Empire. Seinfeld has an older sister, Carolyn. Salha's mother, Garaz Dayan, Seinfeld's great-grandmother, was a member of the Dayan rabbinic family who claim ancestry back to the medieval exilarchs and from the exilarchs back to the biblical King David. Seinfeld's second cousin is alternative metal musician and actor Evan Seinfeld. Seinfeld grew up in Massapequa, New York, and attended Massapequa High School on Long Island. At 16, he spent time volunteering in Kibbutz Sa'ar in Israel. He attended the State University of New York at Oswego. He transferred after his second year to Queens College, City University of New York, from which he graduated in 1976 with a degree in communications and theater. Seinfeld developed an interest in stand-up comedy after brief stints in college productions. He appeared on open mic nights at Bud Friedman's Improv Club. After graduation from college in 1976, he tried out at an open mic night at New York City's Catch a Rising Star, which led to an appearance in a Rodney Dangerfield HBO special. In 1980, he had a small recurring role on the sitcom Benson, playing Frankie, a mail delivery boy who had comedy routines that no one wanted to hear. Seinfeld was abruptly fired from the show due to creative differences. Seinfeld said that he was not told he had been fired until he arrived for a read-through session and found that there was no script for him. In January 1981, he performed stand-up on an evening at the Improv. In May 1981, Seinfeld made an appearance on The Tonight Show, impressing host Johnny Carson and the audience, leading to frequent appearances on that show and others, including Late Night with David Letterman. On September 5, 1987, his first one-hour special Stand-Up Confidential aired live on HBO. But then came the 90s, and with it, a little show called Seinfeld. Seinfeld created The Seinfeld Chronicles with Larry David in 1988 for NBC. The show was renamed to just Seinfeld to avoid confusion with the short-lived teen sitcom The Marshall Chronicles. By its third season, Seinfeld had become the most-watched sitcom on American television. The final episode aired in 1998. The show has been a popular syndicated rerun ever since. NBC offered Seinfeld $110 million, a record, $5 million an episode for a 22-episode 10th season. But believe it or not, he declined. Along with Seinfeld, the show starred Saturday Night Live alumna Julia Louis-Dreyfus and established actors Michael Richards and Jason Alexander. Alexander played George, a caricature of Larry David. Seinfeld is the only actor to appear in every episode. This show about nothing turned into a cultural phenomenon, shaping TV comedy forever, and is still a hit in reruns to this very day. After ending his sitcom, Seinfeld moved back to New York City and returned to stand-up comedy. He decided that staying in Los Angeles to further his acting career was not for him. In 1998, he went on tour and recorded a comedy special titled, I'm Telling You for the Last Time. The process of developing and performing new material at clubs around the world was chronicled in a 2002 documentary, Comedian, which also featured fellow comic Orny Adams and was directed by Christian Charles. Seinfeld has written several books, mostly archives of past routines. In 2004, Seinfeld appeared in 2 commercial webisodes promoting American Express titled The Adventures of Seinfeld and Superman. In these, Seinfeld appeared with a cartoon rendering of Superman, to whom reference was made in numerous episodes of Seinfeld as Seinfeld's hero, voiced by Patrick Warburton, character David Puddy on Seinfeld. The webisodes were directed by Barry Levinson and aired briefly on television. Seinfeld and Superman were also interviewed by Matt Lauer in a specially recorded interview for The Today Show. On November 18, 2004, Seinfeld appeared at the National Museum of American History to donate the puffy shirt he wore in the Seinfeld episode of the same name. He also gave a speech when presenting the puffy shirt, saying humorously, "This is the most embarrassing moment of my life." In 2006, Seinfeld had a cameo appearance on Saturday Night Live as host Julia Louis-Dreyfus's assassin. Louis-Dreyfus in her opening monologue mentioned the Seinfeld curse. While talking about how ridiculous the curse was, a stage light suddenly fell next to her. The camera moved to a catwalk above the stage where Seinfeld was standing, holding a large pair of bolt cutters. He angrily muttered, "Damn it," upset that it did not hit her. Louis-Dreyfus continued to say that she was indeed not cursed. In 2007, Seinfeld appeared at the 79th Academy Awards as the presenter for Best Documentary. Before announcing the nominations, he did a monologue about the unspoken agreement between movie theater owners and movie patrons. On October 4, 2007, Seinfeld made a guest appearance as himself in the 30 Rock episode Seinfeld Vision. On February 24, 2008, at the 80th Academy Awards, Seinfeld appeared as the voice of his B-movie animated character Barry, presenting Best Animated Short Film. Before announcing the nominees, he showed a montage of film clips featuring bees, saying that they were some of his early work. On June 2, 2008, amidst his Spring 2008 tour, Seinfeld performed in New York City for a one-night-only show at the Hammerstein Ballroom to benefit Stand Up for a Cure, a charity aiding lung cancer research. In August 2008, the Associated Press reported that Jerry Seinfeld would be the pitchman for Windows Vista as part of a $300 million advertising campaign by Microsoft. The ads, which were intended to create interest for Windows in support of the subsequent I'm a PC advertisements, began airing in mid-September 2008. They were cut from television after 3 installments. Microsoft opted to continue with the I'm a PC advertisements and run the Seinfeld ads on the Microsoft website as a series of longer advertisements. In March 2009, it was announced that Seinfeld and the entire cast of Seinfeld would be appearing for a reunion in Larry David's HBO series, Curb Your Enthusiasm. The fictional reunion took place in the 7th season's finale and starred most of the original cast, including Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Jason Alexander, and Michael Richards, in a multiple-episode arc. Seinfeld appeared on an episode of the Starz original series Headcase. As was the case in many of his previous guest appearances on sitcoms, he played himself. In Australia, Seinfeld appeared in a series of advertisements for the Greater Building Society, a building society based in New South Wales and southeastern Queensland. His appearance in these ads was highly publicized and considered a coup for the society, being the 3rd time Seinfeld had appeared in a television commercial. Seinfeld also wrote the scripts for the 15 advertisements that were filmed. The ads largely aired in the northern New South Wales television market, where the society has most of its branches. Seinfeld was the first guest on Jay Leno's talk show, The Jay Leno Show, which premiered on September 14, 2009. Seinfeld was featured on Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update sketch to do the Really segment with Seth Meyers. He executive produced and regularly appeared as a panelist in The Marriage Ref. On August 30, 2010, Seinfeld made a surprise guest appearance on The Howard Stern Show, ending the feud the two had in the early 1990s. Seinfeld toured the U.S. in 2011 and made his first stand-up appearance in the United Kingdom in 11 years. In July 2011, he was a surprise guest on The Daily Show. Seinfeld also launched a personal archives website at jerryseinfeld.com and appeared in the HBO special Talking Funny with fellow comedians Chris Rock, Louis C.K., and Ricky Gervais in the same year. In 2012, Seinfeld started a web series titled Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, in which he would pick up a fellow comedian in a different car each episode and take them out for coffee and conversation. The show originally aired on the Crackle streaming service and then was bought by Netflix. The initial series consisted of 10 episodes lasting from 7 to 25 minutes each. The show has continued to get high-profile guests such as Alec Baldwin, Mel Brooks, Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., Larry David, Ellen DeGeneres, Tina Fey, David Letterman, Jerry Lewis, Steve Martin, John Mulaney, Eddie Murphy, Carl Reiner, Don Rickles, Chris Rock, Howard Stern, and Jon Stewart. The show has also hosted Seinfeld alums Larry David, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Jason Alexander, and Michael Richards. Season 7 featured its most high-profile guest, then-President Barack Obama. In a farewell tribute video for the Obamas before the president left office, Seinfeld stated, "That knocking on the Oval Office window, that probably was the peak of my entire existence." In 2014, Seinfeld told David Letterman he invited Woody Allen to be on the show but hadn't heard back. That same year, he also revealed Joan Rivers was supposed to be a guest on the show before she died due to a botched medical procedure. Seinfeld signed a deal with Netflix in January 2017. That included placing Seinfeld and comedians in Cars Getting Coffee on their streaming service, as well as 2 new Seinfeld stand-up specials and the development of scripted and non-scripted comedy programming. As part of the deal, all episodes of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee were made available on the streaming service, in addition to a new 24-episode season. The series was nominated for 5 Primetime Emmy Awards and won 3 Webby Awards. Seinfeld says it's very important to know what you don't like. A big part of innovation is saying, you know what I'm really sick of? For me, that was talk shows where music plays, somebody walks out to a desk, shakes hands with the host, and sits down. How are you? You look great. I'm also sick of people who are really there to sell their show or product. What am I really sick of is where innovation begins. In June 2013, Seinfeld appeared on rapper Whale's album, The Gifted, on the song Outro About Nothing. Seinfeld received coverage for his speech at the 2014 Clio Awards ceremony, where he received an honorary award, as media reporters said that he mocked and ripped apart the advertising industry. His statement that, "I love advertising because I love lying," received particular attention. In 2014, Seinfeld hosted the special Don Rickles, One Night Only, at the Apollo Theater. The event celebrated Don Rickles and his career, but also served as a roast among friends. Those who participated in the event included Jon Stewart, David Letterman, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Nathan Lane, Regis Philbin, Robert De Niro, and Martin Scorsese. On February 15, 2015, Seinfeld made a guest appearance on the Saturday Night Live 40th Anniversary Special, where he hosted the Questions from the Audience segment, which included cameos from Michael Douglas, John Goodman, James Franco, Larry David, Ellen Cleghorn, Dakota Johnson, Tim Meadows, Bob Odenkirk, and Sarah Palin, who Seinfeld initially mistook for Tina Fey. On May 20, 2015, Seinfeld made a guest appearance on David Letterman's final Late Show episode. Seinfeld joined guests including Alec Baldwin, Barbara Walters, Steve Martin, Jim Carrey, Chris Rock, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Peyton Manning, Tina Fey, and Bill Murray, who all participated in the Top 10 List segment, Things I've Always Wanted to Say to Dave. In January 2017, Seinfeld went on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon and joined Dave Chappelle and Jimmy Fallon in honoring outgoing First Lady Michelle Obama and played a game of catchphrase, which Obama and Fallon won to Seinfeld's dismay. On September 19, 2017, Netflix released the stand-up comedy special Jerry Before Seinfeld. It follows Seinfeld as he returns for a stand-up routine at the New York City comedy club, Comic Strip Live, which started his career. It is intercut with documentary clips and his stand-up special. It was later released as an LP, CD, and download album, and was nominated for a 2018 Grammy Award for Best Comedy Album. In 2020, it was announced that Netflix would be releasing Seinfeld's first original stand-up special in 22 years, 23 Hours to Kill. The special premiered on May 5th. In October 2020, Seinfeld joined Steve Martin in a discussion about comedy at the New Yorker Festival. They discussed subjects ranging from the creative process, Netflix and the Oscars, to their comedy backgrounds, and the future of comedy during the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2024, he directed, co-wrote, and produced in the Netflix comedy film Unfrosted, a satirical spoof about the creation of Pop-Tarts. Seinfeld also starred in the film alongside Melissa McCarthy, Jim Gaffigan, and Hugh Grant. The film earned mixed reviews, with The Hollywood Reporter writing the film received a sharply divided reaction from critics. The New York Times labeled it a critic's pick, with Ann Nicholson describing it as a full-fledged, fully ridiculous feature comedy targeted to the audience's sweet and salty dopamine receptors. David Ehrlich of IndieWire wrote that the comedy never heats up, and it's a movie about so many different things at once that it comes to feel like a movie about nothing. Seinfeld appeared as a guest on John Mulaney Presents. Everybody's in LA, where he joked that it was the weirdest talk show I've ever been on in my life. He also embarked on a new tour, starting with his first show in Singapore in June 2024, followed by several stops in Australia and North America. Seinfeld returned to Curb Your Enthusiasm in its final season, reuniting with Larry David, where they poked fun at the controversial ending of Seinfeld. Ben Travers of IndieWire wrote, "If the Curb finale is meant to rewrite the Seinfeld ending in any way, it's during that first scene between Jerry and Larry. They're playing out the kind of scene they used to write for Jerry and George, and getting that silly, joyful spark between two TV legends, even for a moment, is pure bliss." Seinfeld wrote the book Sign Language, released in 1993. Written as his television show was first rising in popularity, it is primarily an adaptation of his stand-up material. The title comes from an article in Entertainment Weekly listing the numerous catchphrases for which the show was responsible. In 2002, he wrote the children's book, Halloween. The book was illustrated by James Bennett. Seinfeld wrote the forewords to Ted L. Nancy's Letters from a Nut series of books and Ed Broth's Stories from a Moron. Seinfeld also wrote the foreword to the Peanut Butter and Company cookbook. In October 2020, Seinfeld released his new book, Is This Anything? The book chronicles Seinfeld's 45 years working in comedy and contains many of his best bits that span various decades. He took observational comedy to new heights, making everyday moments hilarious. Seinfeld has stated, "On the Mount Rushmore of stand-up comedy, there are four faces in my opinion: Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Bill Cosby, and Don Rickles." Seinfeld is also cited as his influences Gene Shepard, Mad Magazine, Jonathan Winters, Jerry Lewis, Robert Klein, and Abbott and Costello. He stated, "Monty Python was a gigantic influence on me. They were just about silly, funny things that meant nothing, and that's the stuff I love. There's a wonderful, childlike freedom in those kinds of things." In the Netflix comedy special, Jerry Before Seinfeld, he displayed his personal comedy album collection from when he was a teenager. These albums included Lenny Bruce, Thank You, Masked Man, George Carlin Class Clown Steve Martin, Let's Get Small Bob Newhart, The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart, Mike Nichols and Elaine May, Improvisations to Music Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner 2001 Years with Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Seinfeld stated his 5 favorite films are The Heartbreak Kid, The Graduate, The In-Laws, A Night at the Opera, and Glengarry Glen Ross. Those influenced by Seinfeld include John Mulaney, Ellen DeGeneres, Jim Gaffigan, Judd Apatow, Issa Rae, Nate Bargatze, and Mark Norman. On The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Steve Martin described Seinfeld as one of his retro heroes, saying, "Seinfeld is a guy who came up behind me and is better than I am. I think he's fantastic. I love to listen to him. He almost puts me at peace. I love to listen to him talk." Seinfeld is a fan of the New York Mets and periodically calls Steve Summers' show on WFN AM, a sports talk radio station, as Jerry from Queens. Seinfeld called 4 innings of a Mets game on Sportsnet New York on June 23, 2010, reuniting with analyst Keith Hernandez, who appeared in the Seinfeld 2-part episode entitled The Boyfriend. According to Seinfeld, he thinks about baseball all day and has said, "When I think of retirement, all I would think of is going to a baseball game every day." Seinfeld is left-handed, and the first joke he ever wrote was about the topic. In a 2014 interview with NBC News, he made statements suggesting that he believed he was on the autism spectrum. However, following criticism for his alleged self-diagnosis, he later clarified that he is not autistic and had been commenting on a play about the condition that he related to on some level. Years before Seinfeld was created, Seinfeld dated Carol Leifer. She was a fellow comedian and one of the inspirations for the Seinfeld character Elaine Beans. On national television with sex therapist and talk show host Dr. Ruth Westheimer, he mentioned that he was engaged in 1984 but called it off. In May 1993, days after his 39th birthday, Seinfeld met 17-year-old Shoshana Lonstein in Central Park. After a brief conversation, Lonstein gave Seinfeld her phone number. Lonstein was still a senior in high school and would turn 18 at the end of that month. Seinfeld and Lonstein dated for approximately 4 years, until 1997. She transferred from George Washington University to UCLA, in part to be with him, and cited constant press coverage and missing New York City as reasons for the relationship ending. The age difference led to intense media scrutiny. While Seinfeld was a guest on Howard Stern's talk show, Stern said, "So, you sit in Central Park and have a candy bar on a string and pull it when the girls come?" At which point Seinfeld replied, "She's not 17, definitely not." A few months later, in his second Howard Stern interview, Seinfeld insisted, I didn't realize she was so young. This is the only girl I ever went out with who was that young. I wasn't dating her. We just went to a restaurant and that was it. Early in their relationship, Spy magazine referred to Lonstein as a legal voter. In an October 1993 Playboy interview, Seinfeld described the reactions to the relationship as ranging from horrified to just busting buttons with pride that they know me, noting that his female acquaintances had overall reacted more negatively than his male ones. He said that his assistant was so mad, she punched him, whereas his mother was thrilled. He concluded, if she's 18, if she's intelligent, that's fine. In March 1994, Seinfeld again defended their age difference in an interview with People, stating that Shoshana is a person, not an age. Julia Louis-Dreyfus said in a 1998 New York interview that she was in favor of the relationship as it was a happy one for him, and added that she did not believe there was anything wrong with it. In August 1998, while at a Reebok sports club, Seinfeld met Jessica Sklar, a public relations executive for Tommy Hilfiger, who had just returned from a 3-week honeymoon in Italy with then-husband Eric Nederlander, a theatrical producer and scion of a theater-owning family. Unaware of Sklar's marital status, Seinfeld invited her out. When Sklar eventually told Seinfeld about her relationship situation, she said, "I told him I didn't think this was the right time for me to be involved with anybody." 2 months later, Sklar filed for divorce and began dating Seinfeld. The pair married on December 25, 1999. Comedian George Wallace was the best man at the wedding. After the nuptials, Jerry and Jessica Seinfeld bought Billy Joel's house in Amagansett, Long Island, for $32 million after news of the couple's interest in the property became public in 2000. The Seinfelds have a daughter and 2 sons. In 1999, Seinfeld auctioned a Breitling Chronomat watch as part of the Famous Faces watch auction for charity event in New York City. This watch sold for $11,000. In 2001, Jerry and Jessica Seinfeld created the charitable organization, the Good Foundation, after their first child was born. Good Foundation grants donations of products and services to programs that have demonstrated a capacity to address family poverty in 3 focus areas: supporting new mothers, investing in early childhood, and engaging fathers. Good Plus Foundation has donated over $42 million worth of items through its partner network across the United States. Seinfeld has also participated in Jon Stewart's charity event, Night of Too Many Stars. According to Forbes magazine, Seinfeld's cumulative earnings from Seinfeld as of 2004 was $267 million, placing him at the top of the celebrity earnings list that year. He turned down $5 million per episode for 22 episodes to continue the show for a 10th season. Seinfeld earned $100 million from syndication deals and stand-up performances in 2004 and $60 million in 2006. He also earned $10 million for appearing with Bill Gates in Microsoft's 2008 advertisements for Windows. Between June 2008 and June 2009, Seinfeld earned $85 million, making him the world's highest-paid comedian during those 12 months. In 2013, Forbes documented Seinfeld's annual income as $32 million. In mid-2013, Seinfeld disputed Forbes' claims regarding his income and net worth on The Howard Stern Show. Seinfeld was ranked by Forbes as the highest-paid comedian for 2015, the second highest-paid in 2016, and the highest-paid again in 2017. Seinfeld's income between June 2016 and June 2017 was $69 million. In 2024, Bloomberg declared Seinfeld a billionaire, with a net worth standing at more than $1 billion, thanks to various syndication deals his sitcom signed, with $465 million coming from those deals. Seinfeld is an automobile enthusiast and collector, and he owns a collection of about 150 cars, including a large Porsche collection. He rented a hangar at the Santa Monica Airport in Santa Monica, California, for an extended period during the 1990s for storage of some of the vehicles in the collection. In 2002, Seinfeld purchased property on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in New York City, where he built a $1.4 million 2-story garage to store part of his Porsche collection on the East Coast. One tally has Seinfeld owning 43 Porsches. Paul Bannister has written that Seinfeld's collection includes Porsche 911s from various years, 10 Porsche Boxsters each painted a different color, and the 1955 Porsche 550 Spyder, the same model and pearl gray color that actor James Dean had been driving before he crashed that car and subsequently died. The Discovery Channel television show Chasing Classic Cars claimed that Seinfeld owns the first and last produced air-cooled Porsche 911S. The centerpiece is a $700,000 Porsche 959, one of only 337 built. He was originally not allowed to drive it because the car was not street legal. U.S. emissions and crash tests had not been performed for the model because Porsche refused to donate 4 Porsche 959S for destruction tests. Seinfeld imported the car for exhibition purposes, on the stipulation that it may never be driven on U.S. roads. The car was made U.S. street legal in 1999 under the Show or Display federal law. Seinfeld wrote an article for the February 2004 issue of Automobile, reviewing the Porsche Carrera GT. In 2008, Seinfeld was involved in a car accident when the brakes on his 1967 Fiat 500 failed, and, to avoid an intersection, he pulled the emergency brake while turning sharply, ultimately causing the car to flip onto its side. Luckily, no one was hurt. Comedy King? Absolutely. Stay tuned for more pop culture deep dives. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell for more great videos like this.